Welcome back to the Education Notebook. I'm Amalie Wilson. College students are back in school this week, and new numbers show that half of them will binge drink. Many of them will use drugs this semester. Our next guest is sharing her personal struggles, and she's telling students all about it, hoping her story will keep them away from drugs and alcohol and abuse. We're so glad to welcome Elaine Williams. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So you've written a book, and you go around and you tour and you talk to college campuses, military bases. Tell us a little bit about your story.
Sure. I grew up in a, kind of a kooky Texas family in Dallas, and my first addiction was food. I was bulimic, and then it kind of morphed into drugs, rock and roll, sex, and I was wild and crazy, but I was like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. I was a straight A student, Dean's Honor List, president of Student Council and National Honor Society, but then I was like the one who would teach you how to do tequila shots so they wouldn't burn. So it was,
Did your parents have any idea?
They did, but they were struggling with their own addictions. A lot of times alcoholism is genetic, so I come from a history of that.
What was the breaking point? When did you know you had to stop?
I was moving to New York, and I had this crazy weekend, and I was in the gutter next to my car, and I was coming out of a blackout, and somebody was shining a flashlight in my eyes, and I was like, how rude. And then I was like, oh, it's the cops. Oh no.
Yeah.
And they probably should have taken me to jail, but they didn't. And so they poured me into a cab, and then the next day my friends were like, you have got to start going to AA. So I went to my first meeting in Austin, and then my second meeting in New York City.
And how long have you been sober?
11 years. Wow. August 8th.
Wow.
So it's a gift.
That's amazing. Well, now when you go and you talk to these students, because you're young and vibrant and you've got such great energy, it's got to feel good to kind of connect with them. Huh?
It is. And I was just in, I was in Connecticut at Post University on Sunday, and they were hot. It was in a tent. But I said, we're going to make this fun. And I tell jokes, and I tell my story with a lot of humor. And once you get people laughing, they they listen.
Yeah. Why do you think that everybody seems to be? I mean, people are always drinking, and they're always going to do drugs. Does it seem to be on the rise?
Yes, I have a lot of theories about this. I still go to 12-step meetings, and I'm really involved in coaching stuff, and I love personal transformation. And one of the things we talk about a lot is we're not connecting. We're having a lot of surface conversations with texting, with cell phones. A lot of families come home and they all go into their rooms to look at their computers and separate TVs. So I think we're missing a lot of that human, deeper connection, and I think people try to numb that out with different shticks, as Janine Roth says. Whether it's shopping or video games or drug, alcohol, food, or we're numbing a lot of times instead of processing.
So we should get home, get to the kitchen table, discuss the
Connect.
day.
Yes, absolutely.
Figure out what's going on.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of times parents are only able to teach what they know, and sometimes they weren't parented enough or well, correctly, whatever that means. So I think a lot of times we're not taught to process our emotions. So we can't, so we reach for something, the magic pill, if you will.
And let's talk about the dangers. You're under the influence, or there's a date rape, drug, roofies. Sexual assault can happen on college campuses.
1 out of 4 females.
Jeez.
1 out of 4 is reported. I think the number's higher, which that's one of my missions, is like, let's talk about this, because a lot of times what happens, especially with date rape, they knew the person, sometimes not very well, but they knew them. So a lot of females are afraid to turn this person in. But I always say, even if you don't want to do it for yourself, do it for your girlfriend. And that way we can at least stop and start the conversation. And how do we have fun without flunking out? How do you have fun safely? So that's one of the things I teach. I call it Party 101.
Party 101. All right, what else is in that class?
Sure. Well, I say, you never want to leave your drink alone. You always want to keep it with you. If you forget, throw it away, get a new one. Even if you're not drinking alcohol, you're actually more of a target for the date rape drugs.
Really?
Because predators will think, oh, they're not drinking beer, I'm going to put one of those things in. So if your friend says, I'm going to go dance, hold my drink, hold the drink, and then have a party buddy, somebody you go out with, you get ready together, you go out with them, and you don't go home until your party buddy goes home. You're each responsible, and it's a lot more fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then number 3, designated driver, which seems like a no-brainer, but I always say have mad money, because sometimes plan A is so-and-so's going to drive, and then sometimes so-and-so decides to drink or whatever. So, a cab can seem expensive at the time, but it is nothing compared to prison, killing your friend, hurting yourself, hurting your future. So those are my top 3.
Absolutely, and they're good ones. Thank you so
Yeah,
much,
they're simple,
Elaine.
but yeah.
Absolutely. Where can we find your book?
I am getting it mailed this week. I'm so excited. And I'm going to have it on my website, ElaineWilliamsLive.com.
Okay.
Or you can go to Admire Entertainment.
Great. And if some teachers out there or school administrators can get you there as well,
Absolutely.
right?
I love to come to college, high school, even junior high. I don't think it's too young to start the conversations. Young.
All right, and she's very close to Southwestern Connecticut. So Elaine,
I'd
thank you.
love to be here. Thank you so much
Come
for
back
having me.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right, when we come up next, want to write a short story and get paid for it, there is an app for that. Hear from a local author and the creator of the e-chook next.